Welcome back to the Snap Count on the Big Play Sports Network presented by FanDuel. I'm your host, Trai. This is my quarterback and yours, Charlie Batch. Sir, how are you doing?
I am feeling a lot better this morning, man. It was such an awesome game, man. The electricity in Acrisure Stadium, man. It was so exciting to be a part of.
Dude, that game gave me some. First of all, we got to wait all damn day to get to this 8:20 game. It was the most, I couldn't focus on anything all day, right, Charlie? And I'm a little stitious. I'm not superstitious. I'm just stitious, right? So there are some things I got to do every time we have a game, but nothing was working in the first half. So I watched the game on 3 different TVs. I changed my clothes twice. I sat in 3 or 4 different spots on the couch. We ended up, me and Christina, watching the game on her phone because that seemed to be the best position when we were finally doing something on offense in the fourth quarter. We watched initially the whole second half on her phone. I'm just a little stitious, but I was superstitious yesterday because I was doing whatever I could to give the proper energy to the Steelers. I would like to think that I was a part of missing that field goal, right? But dude, whew, we are AFC North champions. It took all of everything to get to this point, but they got to this point. They found a way to win. Numbers lie, Charlie. You know, we don't have a 1,000-yard rusher. We don't have a 1,000-yard receiver. We don't have a 4,000-yard passer. And we don't have a top 10 defense, but they found a way to win.
They really did. And I think when you look at everything that happened, number one, you have to give, and I know I spoke on this before, you have to give credit to the NFL schedule makers as they're sitting back early in the offseason in 2025 before the schedule is released in May, talking about games that are going to matter at the end. And to make the last game of the regular season, Baltimore and Pittsburgh, they knew both fan bases were going to be patiently waiting until that evening to figure out what was going on and realizing by the time you get to midnight, knowing your fate. Kudos to the NFL for getting it right and taking it all the way down to the wire, essentially with triple zeros on the clock and just having that opportunity for the Steelers to win that game, man. But it just, when I watched that video and I hear somebody say wide right, the first thing that comes to mind when I hear that is Indianapolis 2005. Vanderjack misses it. He missed it wide right. And these are the vibes that are starting to happen here in Pittsburgh. One of the things that you always want to do when you start getting to the end of the season, obviously you want to make sure you're injury free, but also getting hot at the right time. Pittsburgh is doing that. And they have all the vibes that we had for that Super Bowl 40 run because they're hot. They won 4 of the last 5, and now they enter into January football. And these guys truly believe that they have a chance. They need to get into the tournament, which they did. But right now, nobody in the AFC scares this team. And that's what gets me excited about watching this team as they continue into playoff football.
You're right, man. History has a way of repeating itself. And we started this season out. This show, Charlie, we started out with the theme that it was the 20-year anniversary of our Super Bowl, our first Super Bowl together in 2005, Super Bowl 40, when we went up to Detroit and beat the Seattle Seahawks. A lot of parallels between the two teams, right? And the way they ended the season, knowing that they needed one game to get in. We had to do that with Detroit last year, or in 2005. We had to beat Detroit when JB had like 3 touchdowns on like 5 yards or 1 carry or whatever. And so every single game down the stretch mattered. And the NFL has found a way, with the addition of a 17th game, to make the 18th week still count. And for the longest, we used to end the season with like Cleveland, right? That was always our last game. This year, they shifted to Baltimore, and man, it was a barn burner the entire game, bro. Like the entire game, I was on pins and needles, and I know the rest of Steeler Nation was. Gotta ask you this: we've been part of some really good games with Baltimore, right? Before, and you've been there through the whole ride, even since your retirement. Was the vibe in the stadium, did it match or exceed? I'm thinking of that 2008 AFC Championship game when Troy took that interception back. That is like the pinnacle. I don't think anything can reach that fever pitch in this rivalry, but is it close? Was that close? Did you feel that vibe?
It was close, and it was probably one of the most electrifying games at Acrisure Stadium. And of course, that time it was Heinz Field. But when you see everything they were talking about being a playoff atmosphere. The fans made it feel like it was a playoff atmosphere. And lo and behold, of course, when you're playing against the Ravens. So when you talk about, the AFC Championship game in 2008, I can't remember exactly what year it was whenever Antonio had the immaculate extension to win the division,
Oh, yeah, that was
and
yep.
that was probably the closest thing to it. But just the way that everything unfolded, that fourth quarter was exciting. Both teams going down to score, you score in a 2-minute drill, they go right back down and drive the length of the field, and everybody's on pins and needles watching that kick unfold. And of course, I don't know if I'm sure many people saw all around the country since last night, the holy water that was kind of spread into the end zone. They are buying and saying
Yeah.
that is one of the reasons why that kick went wide right. Whatever you truly believe or whatnot, the kick was missed, and whatever by any means necessary, whatever you truly believe on why we won, just like you talked about being superstitious,
Mhm.
maybe we'll see it next week as well. So everything that we did this week, promise you, is going to be probably be times two next week.
Look at Steelers Nation didn't get enough hate already. Now, God is a Steelers fan too. Oh, they really gonna hate us now. You know? But so much to get into, man. We got these Steel City headlines coming up, man. So many great performances in the clutch, brother. Man, let's get into these Steel City headlines. Let's talk about this. Steel City headlines are brought to you by Smart Choice Windows. Right now, at Smart Choice Windows, you can get 50% off all windows during our limited time promotion. Plus, take advantage of their special financing with no money down and no interest until 2027. Looking to upgrade your whole exterior? Smart Choice Windows is also offering $1,500 off siding for your entire home and $500 off entry door insulation to boost your curb appeal. And remember that every project starts with a free, no pressure estimate. So give them a call at 844-GET-SMART or visit smartchoicewindows.com and make sure to ask about the big play bonus to get additional 10% off all promotions. 26-24 Steelers win. AFC North champions. Playoff bound. Hosting next week, next Monday versus Houston. You don't win a game like that without big time performances, CB. And I got to start this show out by just pointing out one of the best performances I've seen by a singular player when it needed to happen. Cameron Hayward dominated. My goodness, you could feel how much he wanted that game. CB, he got hurt relatively early. I was a little bit concerned. I think it was friendly fire when he was chasing down Derrick Henry on the first run play of the game, and Zay Flowers hit Pierre, and Pierre ran into Cam's knee. So I was a little worried. He shook that off, came back, and commenced to completely dominate that game. I got to give a shout out. He got a lot of flack to start this year when he was holding out for a contract extension. He knows his worth, right? He knew what kind of year he was going to put on the table. He knew how he felt. And he came out this year, not just this game, this entire year, and put on for the Steelers. I got to give the captain a big shout out, dude. That dude balled out and he put on for his team yesterday in a huge way.
And that was it coming into the game. And I literally was that, the veterans had to step up and, make sure that these guys on this team realized what was at stake at this particular point. And this is where you needed your captains to step up. You had talked about, Aaron Rodgers to that TJ with the big interception. But
Mhm.
man, Cam Hayward, this guy played lights out. He was all over the field. And there was one play in the game where everybody was blocked and the hole was so wide for Derrick Henry, and the only thing standing in Henry's way was Cam Hayward as he was engaged with the lineman to now have to play two gap, anticipating the cutback. Because if
Mhm.
Cam does not get to that particular point, that hole is wide, and Derrick Henry probably runs for 30, 40 yards on that particular game. He was able to shed the tackle, shed the block, and come in and make the tackle. That is exactly what you want your veteran guy to do. He understands what's at stake. He knows his whole career. He wants an opportunity to be in the tournament so he can hoist that Lombardi trophy, something that he's missed throughout his career. And I don't know if you heard in the post game, he said, hey, he's envious and jealous of the guys who have come before him because they have something that he does not have,
Mhm.
which is a Super Bowl. And when you play in Pittsburgh, the standard is the standard, meaning you must bring home a Super Bowl trophy. And if that team does not hoist that Lombardi trophy, that team is off or not because the Steelers organization doesn't even acknowledge the fact that you went to a Super Bowl. You have to win it. If not, everything's off or not.
Yeah, only thing missing from a Hall of Fame resume for him and TJ Watt is that Super Bowl win, And for that point, just playoff wins. I don't think TJ has ever won one. I think Cam won one earlier in his career, but TJ hasn't even won a playoff game. But it wasn't just Cam on that D line. You mentioned earlier that the reason we drafted Derek Harmon was for this game. Derek Harmon needed to be the best Derek on the field. And Derek Harmon was the best Derek in the second half. The first half, Derek Henry went off. They did what they want to do in the run game. But after that big run and after some good runs in the second quarter, they settled down. Cam got the boys playing good. Another guy I got to shout out, Keanu Benton. We've been on him. He has not been a great run defender earlier. He played great yesterday. And I got to give credit to the captain for getting those boys motivated. But to your point, Derek Harmon was the best Derek in the second half. And in the second half, they dominated the run game. Derrick Henry was an afterthought. Now, granted, they were still able to score. Lamar was able to do some things, but he made them one-dimensional with the way that D-line played up front.
They did, and they, starting off the first play, you had a little misalignment, safety. Kyle Duggar didn't get to where his spot was, and of course, that opened up a 44-yard gain on the opening play. But they started to hone down, and once they honed down after those big runs happened in the first half, that second half, to your point, they made him one dimensional and saying, "Okay, you are not going to run the football," because I thought for sure they were going to turn around and hand that football off to Derrick Henry
Mhm.
35 plus times. They didn't. That was less than that, and ultimately they were able to now confine and hone in on that center of that defense, and now forcing Baltimore to become pass first. And again, it all starts with that defensive line up front: Derek Harmon, Cam Hayward, the Keanu Bitten. I tell you, one person who even made a play that won't show up
Number
on
93.
any of the highlights: Logan Lee.
Oh, Logan Lee. The pass
The tip
deflection.
pass,
Yeah,
absolutely. That was a big play in
big
the
play.
game that won't get talked about, but I promise you it will be highlighted in the team meeting because Tomlin understands how significant that play was, and everybody was celebrating that moment after he made the play and went to the sideline. It was beautiful to watch.
Yeah. Also, didn't mean to leave out Y.A. Black, another guy who's been steadily building and getting better each week. He's been crucial to our defensive line this year. I don't know if a lot was expected of him coming out of Iowa, being a fourth round pick. Me and Max were talking. He should have kept the number 78. I think the 78 looked better on him than the 94. The big 78 goes back to like the Joe Green days when you were wearing 70s on the D line. But nevertheless, he played fantastic. The whole D line playing fantastic. I really thought, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say before you move off of YA Black, he played well and he played the most snaps out of the rookies on that defensive front. So he has that experience moving forward. The one thing I hope that does not happen this week, that personal foul penalty when he hit Lamar Jackson low. I hope he doesn't get fined for it because he actually got tripped,
We got
which
tripped.
should have
Yeah.
been called by
Yeah.
by the official as
Mhm.
that guard extended his leg out, very similar to Alex Highsmith did, in Detroit, which was accidental.
Mhm.
But for him to get tripped and fall into Lamar Jackson's knees, yes, it was a personal foul penalty. I understand the concept of the rule, but I just hope that they don't take money out of his pocket because of something else that the Ravens did, because that was not his fault.
Yeah, definitely wasn't his fault. Obviously, he got tripped. It shouldn't have been a penalty. It should have been a penalty on them, if anything. But that ended up being a pretty big play because I believe that was on third down. But yeah, I think when you look at Derrick Henry, I was watching him closely, especially in that second half. He was getting up slow off the ground. He was feeling those hits that the D line and the linebackers were putting on him. Patrick Queen, Malik Harrison. This was a Malik Harrison. They brought Malik Harrison in for this game. Former Raven, uh, downhill running back, not great in coverage, but good in run support. They brought him in for this game. All those guys were involved in laying some hits on Derrick Henry. But you got to wonder, did those 36 carries last week versus Green Bay get to him? Because it looked for a while there, he was on the ground after tackles asking for hands up. Usually he gets up himself. Little things like that you notice, like the wear and tear of the Pittsburgh Steelers, this rivalry, just the intensity, all of that plays a factor. And I think maybe Derrick Henry started to feel a little fatigue and a little sore from all the stuff that the D line for the Steelers and the linebackers were doing.
Yeah, I agree with you there. It looked like he was winded as the game was going on, and I've never seen Derrick Henry extend his arm up asking for assistance to get
Mhm.
off the ground as much as he did in this game. So you have to credit that front seven of the Steelers for making sure that they were coming downhill and making sure that they were delivering the blow versus absorbing the blow. And that was something that they wanted to make sure that they were able to do throughout the course of the game. And it looked like they wore down as they felt like they had a beat on what Derrick Henry was doing.
Now, we weren't out without our deficiencies on the defensive side of the ball. Once again, the breakdowns in the fourth quarter are happening. This reminded me of the Minnesota game. You remember that when we had a comfortable lead going to the fourth quarter, and all of a sudden Jordan Addison gets wide open down the sideline. Thank God for Patrick Wilson and his 4.4 speed to chase him down, or else that might have been a loss, and this whole thing might look a little different. But that's been something that's been rearing its ugly head for our defense is the breakdowns, and the breakdowns happening at the worst, absolute, absolute worst times with Zay Flowers getting wide open behind the defense. Now, one of the plays was just Lamar being Lamar. He might be the only person that could have got out of the grasp of Keanu Benton and Alex Highsmith when they had him dead to rights, and somehow he found a way to get out of it and throw a deep pass to Zay Flowers. That's just Lamar being Lamar. Sometimes you got to chalk that up to just greatness happening, and just like that, you can't stop them. You can only hope to contain them. And for a large part, outside of those three big plays, the two to Zay Flowers and the one to Isaiah Likely, I thought the secondary did a pretty good job of keeping Lamar in check.
They did, and they were trying to use a spy on him to make sure he doesn't get out of the pocket. This is what they do during their game plan because you have to prepare for your division because of how great Lamar Jackson is. But to your point, Lamar being Lamar, that's why he's a two-time MVP because of plays like that. When you see Alex Highsmith, because of that tackle miscommunication, allowing Highsmith to run scot-free towards the quarterback, but for him to be able to bounce off Highsmith, Benton, and then still keep his eyes down the field and deliver that play, man, that was a beautiful play. You just have to
Mhm.
chalk it up for him being great and
Right.
making plays like that. And I know everybody's looking around and like, why is Patrick Queen on,
Yeah.
Zay Flower? That wasn't the case.
Yeah.
Everybody's eyes were in the backfield thinking that Lamar was going to get tackled. And when
Mhm.
he got out of it, the safety now he ran to the sideline that left one on one with Patrick Queen. Of course, Zay is going to
Yeah.
win that. And when you
Exactly.
look at that play, Lamar did a fantastic job because Zay was actually looking over the inside shoulder. Lamar put the ball up enough for Zay to adjust to now look over his outside shoulder to make that play. That is just playmakers making plays in that particular situation to chalk it up for them. But the other one, on that fourth down call. That was a great play design by the Ravens. And because of how fast they got to the line of scrimmage, how loud the crowd was, the communication wasn't there. And you could see between Cal Duggar and Joey Porter Jr., when we're lining up in that bunch formation,
Mhm.
Joey gives him a lock signal like, hey, I have my man, you have your man. And for whatever reason, is that switch release happened and Zay Flowers came back underneath. Cal Duggar got lost and not allow him to be wide open for that easy touchdown. So again, they have to clean up those communication issues, especially when you're playing at home. You can't hear because of how loud that crowd is. They have to clean that up, and they know they do.
Did the same thing happen on the on the first touchdown on the first drive? It was what, 4th and 7, and Zay Flowers got behind, or yeah, it was Zay Flowers that got behind Jalen. What did you see on that play?
Yeah, they were. It looked like everybody was. Again, it was loud. Everybody was trying to figure out, okay, are we playing combination coverage? Is it going to be man? And for whatever reason, they allowed him to, slip through scot free. And that just one. They just have to communicate. And when you do it, not once. Once is okay. We can understand that, but they did it multiple times throughout the course of this game. So if you better clean this up in a hurry because now, as Houston's staff is looking at the game film, they're going to try to put you in similar situations. And that's going to be one that you're going to see it. You'll see it early and see if they cleaned up communication. If not, then you'll start to see it a little bit more as the game goes on. And that's just a couple in the secondary that they know they have to clean up.
Defense definitely has to clean this up before Houston come. You got Nico Collins and CJ Stroud and a kid in Jaden Higgins who's coming on real strong. So those type of breakdowns can't happen if we hope to win our first playoff game in what, 9 years.
Right.
But moving on, this one side of the ball that has not been an issue for us because we have a fantastic special team coach in Danny Smith and a Pro Bowler, the best special teams player in the league, I think, but definitely in the AFC, and Ben Skoranek. These type of issues that we had yesterday with special teams hadn't happened. And it was surprising that we gave up a crucial kickoff return at the end of the game when we had great coverage the entire time. And are we concerned about Boswell? There's been 3 games now where he's missed some kicks that are atypical for a Boswell type of kick. And he seems to be doing this little inside out things, putting a little spin. He put too much on that extra point. But are we concerned about Chris Boswell?
For me, I'm not. The kickers, they get in a funk, at some point in their career. Because of how consistent Boz has been throughout the course of his career, I'm gonna give him a pass. And
Right.
those things happen. Okay, now as we move into a new season and your regular season stats are wiped out and you are now entering with a clean slate, you want to make sure that, hey, this is not going to happen again. If they get back into that particular situation, they're going to allow him the opportunity to to attempt the field goal. Why? Because he made a 57-yarder at Acrisure Stadium. It's one of the toughest stadiums to
Yeah.
kick in. And
Right.
he was able to make that kick with room to spare. And
Hmm.
because of that reason, he's going to continue to do that. There's nobody down on him. There may be some people in Steelers Nation, but there's nobody down on him in the building. Special teams coach Danny Smith still continues to believe in him. And the person that it matters the most, Boswell, believes in himself. And
Hmm.
because of that reason, I don't have a concern.
Look, in Boz we trust, and I'm still sticking with that all day. Like you said, people forget he missed the extra point, but he did get us on the board initially when the offense was reeling and not really doing much with the 57-yarder in Acrisure Stadium on a Sunday night, which is not an easy place to kick, obviously, because you saw what happened with Tyler Loop to end the game. Um, but yeah, in Boz we trust. I don't have any issues with him, but the coverage team needs to be better at the end of the game right there. That is something that I'm not used to seeing because our coverage team has usually been fantastic the entire year.
It has, and that's one that really we haven't seen that much at all. Maybe one other time that somebody has, got past the 40-yard line. But again, breakdowns occur, but they
Mhm.
can't happen in that crucial moment when yardage is at stake because Baltimore was getting the ball back with no timeout. So they had to make sure that you give them back them up, but again, you give up that play. So again, you have to correct that because again, you put it on film, those are things that people are going to try to take advantage of. So it's just something that, yes, they got out of the stadium with the victory, but that's one they're going to talk about closely as they are reviewing the film this week.
Hey, defense and special teams did just enough for us to get out there for a victory. But the one thing that was a concern was were we going to put up enough points to even contend? And so on the other side of this break, we're going to get to the offense because they definitely did show up. It didn't look promising at first, but they ended the game strong. That segment was also brought to you by Smart Choice Bass. It's the perfect time to remodel your bathroom. Right now, Smart Choice Bass is giving you $1,250 off your bathroom projects, plus a free luxury upgrade to add comfort and style. And just for Big Play listeners, you'll save an additional 10% on your project. So don't wait. Visit them at smartchoicebass.com or give them a call at 844-GET-SMART to schedule your free consultation today. Smart Choice Bass, where luxury meets affordability. The magic number, Charlie, 30 plus touches for the law firm that is Warren and Gainwell. All right. You got to get them 30 plus touches because when you do, we win the game. They had 32 touches. We won the game. It didn't look that way at first, man. We started the game out with 5 straight passes. And when I tell you I was over here pulling my hair out, Baltimore comes into the game. They know what they want to do. They know they got to run the ball with Derrick Henry. We come to the game. Granted, we did try to get the ball to Warren early, but that's not his specialty, right? Those swing passes. We got a penalty on the very first play of the game on a screen pass that wasn't going to work. Thank God we got that penalty. But eventually it came around and we started feeding our best playmakers on the team, minus with DK out the game. And I got to give Arthur Smith credit. He adjusted. We always, at least at the beginning of this year, we were concerned about the fact that we had a lack of second half adjustments. For the second half of this season, that's been the best thing about this team. We are slow starters, but all of a sudden in the third quarter, we turn it on. And then in the fourth quarter, A-Rod did what he did. And a large part of that is because we got the ball to our two running backs, the two best playmakers on our team, got it to them 30 plus times, and we won the game.
And that's it, and the yardage may not equal the total, carries or catches that they've both had, but they were productive. They broke
Mhm,
off the runs, made people miss whenever
mhm.
you needed to now convert and pick up a first down. So those little plays matter. Those are the hidden yards that happen throughout the course of a game that keep drives together. And to your credit, Arthur Smith and the adjustments that he's making at halftime in the last month of the season has been remarkable because
Yep.
you're starting to see these drives consistently and putting points on the board. And that was impressive to watch. And the one thing that, I know we talked during a preview show and the over under, I went under, but as we got closer to game time, I started to shift that to the over. And when I looked at the score, I'm like, oh, I was almost pretty accurate on the score. My final prediction was 24-23.
Mhm.
We came out on top 26-24. So I was like, okay, learning and just going with your gut sometimes. But again, ultimately, I thought 25 points was enough to win the game. And ultimately, the Steelers were able to do that.
Yeah, I think we missed your parlay by one. We're gonna get to that later on. I think
Man.
you had Aaron under 200, and I think he ended up having the most yards he had all year. But we'll get to that a little later. But speaking of A Rod, man, he really bounced back from what I thought was his probably worst performance last week versus Cleveland. Again, started out slow. Receivers were not getting separation early. Like he was trying to thread some balls in, and the DBs were right on them. Baltimore was not afraid to play man to man against our offense. Nobody scared them necessarily. And A Rod had to come up with some stuff. He started calling his own plays. I remember watching it on TV at one point. Usually, when they pan over to the offensive coordinator, he has his sheet up. He's talking into the headset. Arthur Smith didn't say one word. He just held that sheet up, looked up, didn't say one word. So you knew right then Arthur was not calling a game. This was A Rod in his bag on the offensive side of the ball when the game really counted. And he came through in the big way. And like Coach Tomlin said, you bring in an A Rod for these moments because he's been there, done that, knows what it looks like, and knows what he wants to do. And he thrives and actually enjoys those moments. He looks forward to those moments. He doesn't shy away from them. He runs towards them. That's why you bring in an A Rod. And of course, he came through in a big way once again.
It was, and this is, the beauty of a quarterback coordinator relationship. When you get the moments like this, you kind of build that trust throughout the course of the year. But when you get to this particular point where there is no tomorrow, that's when you start spending a little bit more meeting time together. So during the course of the week, you get into the mindset of the coordinator. Why did you put these certain packages together? What are you trying to attack on the defensive side? Once you understand that, the quarterback now throughout the course of the week is now watching film, understanding the game planning. And then when you get in certain moments, yeah, the call might not be right, but if I'm able to audible at the line of scrimmage, make one minor adjustment to a receiver or a route combination, that's where you have to take advantage of it at. So now it's not like Aaron is just, calling plays out of the blue. He understands it, and you're calling
Mhm.
what Arthur will want to. The difference is Arthur can't talk to you anymore because that play clock or the helmet communicator shuts down at 15 seconds. So now it's the quarterback responsibility at the line of scrimmage to get you to the best possible play. He was able to do that. And now neither one of them are going to walk away to say, hey, yeah, it was Aaron or it was Arthur. No, we did it together and they
Yeah.
did it collectively because they had the conversations throughout the course of the week to now make those adjustments in game. And when you produce, you win, everybody wins, everybody's happy.
When you look at this offense uh, and this season in general, our offense is an anomaly this year. When you look at our rankings, yards wise, we are 25th in the league in yards, but we're 15th in scoring. So we're finding a way to put points on the board. Um, Defensively, we're 26th in yards, but we're 17th. Still not great, but better than what it would seem. Probably the definition of bend don't break. And so numbers lie sometimes, CB. And coming into this game, like I mentioned, we didn't know where the points were going to come from. We knew Baltimore, our best offensive weapon the first time we played him was DK Metcalf, had his best game of the year. Who was going to get those yards? Who was going to step up in a way that made A Rod comfortable that I can come to you in the clutch? I got to give MVS some credit. caught a lot of flack last week, not being on the same page with A-Rod. I think he caught one of the bigger catches of the game on that long third down that was slightly behind him. It wasn't a great throw by A-Rod. He was able to corral it, bobbled it a little bit, was able to secure it, able to continue to drive. That's how we were able to control the clock. For the longest this year, we had a hard time winning time of possession. We dominated time of possession, and it was because of plays like that on third down to MBS, to Adam Thielen, to Scotty Miller, the cast-offs coming in a big way. Got to give A-Rod credit for continuing to go to them and have the confidence in them and not being shying away from them because of the performance last week. Give MVS some credit. He came up with some clutch catches, and yeah, everybody contributed to this win, and I got to give those guys their props too.
Absolutely. And this is the confidence that Aaron Rodgers has in those guys. And he showed it last week, even though the production wasn't there. He wanted to get better this week. And when you look at it, just the way that Baltimore came in, they didn't respect the wide receiver group. And they were going to play man. They were going to do some things because they didn't feel like that group can actually beat them. But as the game went on, they were able to make those plays, whether that was a slant route to Calvin Austin, maybe that was, MVS, like you talked about on the catch that was behind them. But again, when you make an outbreaking route catch, again, I put them on notice that Aaron is not afraid to go to them. The
Mhm.
play of the game for me, everybody could talk about the Fryermuth catch. Yes, that's great. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. But Aaron Rodgers' dime that he threw on a seam route
Oh
to
my
Adam
goodness.
Thielen,
Oh
he was
my
the third
goodness.
option. He
Yeah.
looks left, 1-2. He knows where he's going with the football and drops that dime
My
to
God.
Thielen there. And people say, man, and typically when you have an aging quarterback, sometime as the season goes on, his arm starts to get a little weaker. For whatever reason, Aaron's arm is getting stronger as this season is going on. And when you make that type of throw, that lets you know we're not afraid of you, but we're also not afraid to run any type of route combination to you because he can complete that pass. That was
Right.
a crucial catch in that particular series. Of course, later in the game, Fryermuth sets him up with the kind of a stick move and go, and he gets down the middle of the field. And then ultimately you finish it off with Calvin Austin stutter and go. Yeah, hey, this is what it is. Aaron Rodgers had played fantastic. And when you talk about the reasons why they're winning, when they get into the red zone, they are scoring. And that is a direct reason for Aaron Rodgers. This is why you do business with him because of plays that he's able to make. When you look at his season, yardage wasn't there at top of the league. But when you talk about efficiency, he finished with 24 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and he lets you know he has confidence in this receiver group. Kudos to Aaron Rodgers. The Steelers would not be in this situation if it was not for Aaron Rodgers. Thankfully, he's with the Steelers.
You know why he has more confidence? That O-line. That
Oh,
O-line.
yeah.
That O-line blocking for him up front. And we got another trench report coming up, and it's a good one, CB. Those boys from Baltimore can play. Don't get me wrong. That D-line is tough. Maybe not the best pass rushers, but they got some big boys up front. It was tough sledding initially in the run game, but they found a way. Those boys, I think, outside of A-Rod, are the biggest reason why the Steelers are AFC North champions, and we'll get into that on the other side of this break.
The Big Play Sports Network is brought to you by Garage Beer. No bitterness, no frills, no IPA, just beer-flavored beer. Find local retailers who sell garage beer near you by visiting drinkgaragebeer.com.
The biggest question going into this season, Charlie, was our O-line. How are they going to perform? Not a lot of experience outside of Isaac Seumalo. How was Broderick going to take the switch to left tackle? How was Troy going to bounce back from an injury that took away his rookie year? What kind of second year was Zach Frazier and Mason McCormick going to have after being thrust into a starting position before they were actually planning to play? Charlie, after the regular season has been completed after yesterday's game, I can say we're a resounding yes that this O-line performed above and beyond expectations. They are now the strength of this team. They are now the foundation that they could build upon moving forward. What every great Steelers team is comprised of is starts with the O-line. Starts with the O-line. We have one of the strongest lineages ever when it comes to O-line, and these boys are adding to it. They balled out once again versus the Baltimore Ravens. Granted, the Ravens lost some of their pass rush expertise when they traded some of their guys away. They lost their Namdi, their D tackle, their all-pro D tackle, to a neck injury. Don't know how he's going to recover from that. regardless, they had about 700 pounds of beef that they had to block in Travis Jones and John Jenkins in the middle, and these boys balled out. It was slow at first, slow treading. Arthur Smith didn't necessarily call the right run plays, I think, versus this defense, but eventually when they got into it, they really started to move them in the run game when the toss plays got implemented, and they gave Aaron Rodgers all day to throw the ball. Let's start with Troy Fautanu, who I thought ended his year with a bang, 90%. Once again, we have our right tackle for the next 10 years. Didn't play right tackle at Washington, had to learn, even though he played at some, he was a left tackle coming out of college, which I thought was his best position. But he has shown me he can switch. He's an athlete. And when I tell you he acts like a vet over there, I've been saying it every single week. He does stuff that guys have been playing 8 years in the league don't even do. You can tell he watches film. You can tell he's a student of the game. And when he's out there playing, he wants to hurt you. He's not out there just playing patty cake. He's aggressive. He's not on his heel. He wants to attack, and it's great to see. And his mate right next to him plays the same way, and Mason McCormick. He had his best game, had a bad game. One of his worst games last week versus Cleveland, had to go against another rookie in Mason Graham. That's a pretty good player. And Alex Wright, who got to him a little bit last week, bounced back this week, having to block those big gargantuan D tackles that Baltimore Ravens have. Who they always have some big guys in the middle. But Mason found a way to be impactful. This guy's my spirit animal. All the energy, all the hypeness comes from him. It's great to see. Him and Zach Frazier, once again, fortified that middle. Young boys up there balling out. So kudos to Mason McCormick. And no Steelers line is a good Steelers line if we don't have the captain at center. Zach Frazier is a leader on this team now. In his second year, he has elevated himself to be the leader of this O-line, despite the fact that he has a guy who's been in the league in Isaac Seumalo as an older, who's been in the league for a while. Zach is the leader of this team. He is pointing out, getting by on the same page. The most impressive thing about this O-line, Charlie, hardly ever any pre-snap penalties. And when I'm watching them, there's hardly ever any mental errors. Huge props to Pat Myers, but a lot of props to Zach Frazier, because the only reason that happens is if your center gets everybody on the same page every single play. It's rare that you see a guy out of position on our O-line, and it's because Zach leads the way and tells everybody where they need to be. Meanwhile, still out there doing his best, road grading, getting to the second level as good as any center in the league. I love watching him play because he loves the game of football, and you can tell. And at left guard, Isaac Seumalo. Man, when I tell you I was so happy he was coming back, nothing against Spencer Anderson, who I thought did a good job. With as much stuff that's on Spencer Anderson's plate, I thought he did a formidable job of filling in for Isaac Seumalo. But it's nothing like the real thing, baby, right? Isaac Seumalo is a Pro Bowl guard. He won't get recognized this year for it, but he had a damn good season this year when he wasn't hurt. He had to play with injury. He had to play with a pec injury. He had to play with a tricep injury. And not only did he play well, he had to deal with a rotating door at left tackle. 4 different left tackles played next to him this year. 4 different ones. Pete, Dylan Cook, who's the current left tackle, Broderick Jones, and Calvin Anderson at one point or another were playing next to him. I got to tell you, Charlie, that is a little stressful as a guard. When you got to deal with the young guy, not only got to deal with your assignment, you got to deal with this 300-pound breathing down your neck, wanting to kill you and take your money away from you and your family. You also got to get this left tackle in order. And he has done that to tremendous effect, because you could tell by the way Dylan Cook plays, he doesn't play frantic. He plays calm. And I think a large part of that is because of Isaac. Moving over to Dylan Cook, he has been a godsend. Broderick Jones was playing some good ball when he unfortunately got that neck injury. And then the first person they went to after Broderick was Andres Pete. And then Andres Pete, they wanted Calvin Anderson. Unfortunately, Calvin Anderson had to go to IR. Andres Pete was going to be left tackle at first. Dylan Cook came in, and he has really put his name in the hat to be the starting left tackle for the Pittsburgh Steelers moving forward. He has played that good these last 5 games. You don't hear his name spoken at all. You know why? Because he is doing his job each and every week. It is so good to see him go out there and put on at a position that people had a huge question about. Got to give props to him. Got to give props to Pat Meyer, because he's been in this building. This is his 3rd year in Pittsburgh, and he hadn't sniffed a game. And in his first action, he goes out and plays against some of the better defensive ends. He had to play against Bradley Chubb, had to play against Myles Garrett. This week, he didn't have a big name defensive end he was going against, so he had to dominate, and he did. Nobody on the end, nobody at the outside linebacker or rush in position got any pressure on Aaron Rodgers. He had sacked twice, but it took 6+ seconds each sack that he got, and he came from the big D tackles in the middle. There were more cover sacks than somebody missing a block. So got to give a props to this whole O-line in general. Dylan Cook did his thing. They balled out, and a large reason why we are AFC North champions is because I can put up a screen like that that shows you that they all played well, and they've been doing that for the last half of this season almost every week.
Man, as I'm looking at that screen, if I recall correctly, this may be the first time that you had all yellows across the board. I know some people were close,
One other time. Maybe
one other time.
One other time. But yeah, this is what you want to see, Charlie. At the end of the year, in the most crucial situations, they played their best football.
Absolutely. And I think the one play that really stands out to me in the adjustment when you talked about Mason McCormick early in that first drive, I think it may have been the first or second play. I forget who the defensive tackle was, bull rushed Mason. And he was pushed back a couple yards, but then gathered himself pretty quickly and didn't allow the pressure to happen. But I didn't see that the next go around. It was kind of like, I saw your first move. Okay, now I got you. Now I know what to prepare for. And looking at just the report, that lets me know he was solid as the game went on and didn't allow that to happen, because I did not see that bull rush happen after that first or second play.
And that's what you got to love about these young kids. They're making adjustments on the fly. They're doing things that veteran O-linemen do. He learned real quick, fast, in a hurry. And it does help that this is his second time playing the Baltimore Ravens, of course. But he decided he wasn't going to get bull rushed anymore. Dude, I love the way Mason McCormick plays. He goes out there, puts his heart on the line every single play. You remember that game a couple of weeks ago where him and Troy did like a synchronized front flip after a touchdown? That's the type of stuff I love to see, man. And that's all that's how you know they're having fun, man. So big props to this O-line. They had, for by and large, outside of Isaac's injury and the left tackle, I think center, right guard, right tackle, Zach, Mason, and Troy played every single snap this year. Every single snap this year.
And that's what you want on your offensive line. Those guys have to practice all together, and that shows up in games where you're not consistently having that offensive line rotation. I know we did a little bit on the left-hand side, but again, that right side was stable enough to allow those other guys to kind of fill in and make sure that they were able to pick up where those other guys left off. Like, again, that goes to coaching. Having those guys prepared, understanding the film study, understanding the game plan on what you're trying to accomplish, because you don't know when you're going into the game. Right. Kudos to Pat Meyer and the staff, that offensive line group, and Isaac is in there as well. That you ultimately had the opportunity to see the numbers that you're seeing right now, and this is impressive to watch, especially when these guys got better as the season went on.
Yeah, and they definitely got their work cut out for them. They're going against probably, some will argue, the best D-line in football when we host Houston next week. Will Anderson and Daniil Hunter are probably the best duo as far as pass rushers in the league. So, but I'm confident. The way these kids are playing right now, I have confidence when they match up against anybody in the NFL. They are all on the same page, and they're hungry. They look like they want to go out there. They're not afraid. They're not out there tiptoeing. They want the game to be put on their back, and that's what you want from your O-line.
And this is the best situation that the Steelers can have at this particular point. A playoff game at home, crowd noise is not going to be a factor. And that's where Aaron Rodgers is able to control the line of scrimmage with his snap count, keep that defensive line off balance. And he does a lot of quick count, hard count, and they can't tee off and get a bead on what the snap count in, which is vastly different than when you're on the road. So that's why I like, even though you're playing against the #1 defense, that's why I like, based off what you're talking about grade-wise, as they now enter into this game, that hidden factor of that snap count by Aaron Rodgers to help that offensive line out.
I like it. I like how you dropped the name of the show 3 times and what you were saying. That's good stuff. That's good name brand recognition right there. That's what you got to do. All right. Speaking of Houston and speaking of the playoffs, we're going to get to the rest of them after this break. We got the invite, Charlie. We got an invite to the dance. All right. We are the 4th seed hosting the Houston, Texas next Monday. But when you look at this field, this AFC field of playoff teams, nobody scares me. This is not like years past where you had Pat Mahomes and a dominant Buffalo Bills or a dominant Ravens team in the playoffs that looked like they were head and shoulders above the rest. The best team in the AFC, I think, is the Patriots, and we beat them already. Denver obviously got the number 1 seed, but I think their point differential, like they've won like 11, it's 11 one-score games, so every game is close. So they are beatable. They finding ways to win at the end of the game. Got to give them props for that. But when you go down, Broncos the 1 seed, Patriots the 2 seed, Jaguars, they look really dangerous. I'm going to be honest, and I'm terrified to play in Jacksonville in the playoffs. For some reason, they have some kind of hex over us. So Jacksonville in the playoffs actually does. That's probably the team that scares me the most out of everybody. Jaguars or Bills at the Jaguars, Chargers at the Patriots, and then Broncos obviously get to bye, and obviously we host. When you look at this field, do you agree with me? Does anybody necessarily scare you? Are you afraid to play any of those teams?
Not at all. And this is why when just seeing the demeanor of this team as they approach this game as it was playoffs, they have a strong feeling. They get in, they say anything is possible at this particular point. And why? Number one, they're coming together collectively as a team, but they have Aaron Rodgers. They have the most experience at the quarterback position where they don't have to wonder, hey, how's he going to be for this particular game? He has the experience. You heard him 2 weeks ago. He said, this is why I came to Pittsburgh, to play meaningful games in December, so it matters when we get into the tournament in January. Here we are at this particular point, and because of that confidence, this team feels like they have a shot. And this is why I said early on in the year, they remind me of that Super Bowl 40 run where not many people are giving them a chance. You just got to get hot at the right time. And because they have the veteran presence of Aaron Rodgers, they truly believe that they can win this thing.
Feels a lot different. We were 10-7 last year going into the playoffs. Not nearly the same amount of momentum as we have this year. We went in kind of limping, and nobody, including me, had faith that we could get out the first round with the way we were playing towards the end of the season. Not this year. 4 out of 5 wins, like you mentioned, and we're going in with the belief now we could lose to anybody. Don't get me wrong, but I honestly think they're on a game any given Sunday or Monday, as this game is about to be on, we could beat anybody. And especially when you have a warm weather team that plays in a dome coming up to Pittsburgh in January. I'm hearing y'all got warm weather right now. It's supposed to get colder by Monday, and especially Monday night. It's gonna feel a little different for them Houston Texans. When I was looking at their record, they don't have a lot of games where they're playing in the elements. And so we're gonna really see if that defense can have the same footing on an Acrisure field. Can CJ Stroud throw downfield with confidence on an Acrisure field? There's a lot of things that go into this, and I think we really, truly, and that's why this game was so crucial, having home field advantage is going to go a long way in these playoffs for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, it is. And this is right now, you look at this approach. It's a 4-game season at this particular point. You're taking it one week at a time. There's nothing you can do about the second week of February. You have to handle your business at this particular point. Yes, it's a tough team against Houston. Everything is shifting toward that direction. And I'm sure these players and Coach Tomlin will say, hey, guys, nobody giving you a chance. They haven't given you a chance. They didn't give you a chance last week, let alone this week. So now you just have to go out here, and that's where you now make sure you hone in on those details, understanding the game plan, and go out there and handle your business. And like you said, being that the game is at Acrisure, you have to now give these fans a reason to cheer. Last week's game against Baltimore, it felt like a playoff game. This one here, this is what I get excited about because I've seen many playoff games at this stadium. You've played and been a part of games at Heinz Field, now Acrisure. It's electric. It's different. It takes it up another level, and these fans are going to give a reason on why hopefully that offense of the Houston Texans are having a little bit of trouble because they are so loud from start to finish.
Amen, brother. I cannot wait. You know what else I can't wait for? These college football playoffs are coming up, man. You know what school is representing the entire state that has never been there? My state of Indiana is in the Final Four. We're going to get your picks in mind on the other side of this break. We didn't do too hot in the quarterfinals, but I did get you by 1. Big play bets are brought to you by FanDuel. You know how fast NFL game days move. One big play and everything changes. That's why live betting on FanDuel is a game changer. With FanDuel, you can bet in real time while the game unfolds. Score just flipped, jump on a new spread or live money line. That wide receiver is heating up, bet the next touchdown score or total yards. Think that drive stalls in the red zone? Take a live field goal prop or fade the total. Live player props, team totals, drive results, updated spreads, next play markets, it's all there. It's fast, it's fun, and with FanDuel, your live bets move as quickly as the game does. So whether you're riding momentum or fading the hype, FanDuel puts you right in the middle of every moment. Visit FanDuel.com/bigplay to download the app and bet the NFL live all season long. Disclaimer, must be 21 plus and present in select states. For Kansas, in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in DC, Kentucky, or Wyoming. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg/help.com. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. All right, before we get to the NFL playoffs, we have the college football playoffs. We made our picks last week, Chuck. I got to say, we didn't do too hot. I don't think anybody saw Georgia losing to Ole Miss after they whooped up on them earlier in the year, especially with Lane Kiffin leaving. But we both missed that one. We both had Georgia. Ole Miss ends up winning. You had Alabama over Indiana, and I've never seen a more lopsided matchup of somebody that's supposed to be a supposed blue blood, and then the doormat for many, 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 many years, Indiana Hoosiers coming in and just dominate the Crimson Tide. It was pretty fun to see because I can't stand Alabama. Can't stand them. And then you had Oregon and Texas Tech. Oregon handled business. And then Miami with the upset over OSU. So this Thursday, we have Ole Miss versus Miami. And then on Friday, we have Indiana versus, what did I just say? Indiana versus Oregon, who they beat already this year. Who do you have, Charlie? First, Ole Miss versus Miami.
Man, I'm riding the wave of Miami right now. They were a hot team coming into it. I know there was a lot of talk between Miami and Notre Dame. The Notre Dame felt like they should get into it, but Miami has made a case for themselves, say this is the reason why, and they got hot at the right time. I want to go with Miami, and the reason why I want to go with Miami because I want to see at the end of the game, I want to see what Michael Irvin is going to do. He gave that cooler a nice little belt whipping at that particular point. I want to see him. I just want to see him continue to ride that way because we talk about one of the purest Miami Hurricane alumni. He is right up there with anybody because he is passionate about his university, man. So I'm going with Miami over Ole Miss.
BTA. Isn't that the term now? BTA. That's what he was doing. Dude, I almost went to Miami, CB. Yeah. It was Miami, Notre Dame, and Northwestern. This was when the U was the U too, right?
Yeah.
And they had Santana Moss and Brian McKinney. I knew back then I couldn't handle all that. It was it was sensory overload, right? When I went on my visit, you remember the movie He Got Game?
Yes.
Jesus Shuttlesworth? I was Jesus Shuttlesworth. It was almost exactly like He Got Game. That's all I'll say about that. Moving on. Indiana versus Oregon.
Hold on, did you give your pick for the game?
I'm with you. I got Miami. The way Miami played against Ohio State, the way they hit them in the mouth, coming downhill, that was some of the hardest hitting I've seen all year long in college football. I'm going with the Hurricanes too, so I'm with you on that. I want to see some more BTA from Irvin. All that energy, man. I don't know how he maintains all that level of energy. He is one of one for real.
Absolutely.
So, Miami for me. And so Friday is actually down here in Atlanta at the Mercedes-Benz. Indiana plays Oregon. Early in the year, Indiana won in a close game, but like we all know, it's hard to beat a team twice. But the way Indiana is playing, the way that coach is coaching, the way that quarterback is quarterbacking, I'm taking my home state of Indiana. You know where I'm going with it. But this Oregon team is coming in with a hot quarterback in Dante Moore, who's probably going to be a top 5 pick next year if he decides to come out. So I think it can go either way, but I'm going with Indiana.
Yeah, I'm going with Indiana as well. I mean, I really like this story that they have this season, and I think ultimately I want them to finish it off and on this historic run because man, they have really rallied college football around
Mhm.
as they're rooting for the underdog at this particular point. And I have a lot of Indiana alumni friends, and they're so excited as they're now representing Hoosiers
Yeah.
this time of year when typically they're representing basketball this time of year
Yep.
versus football. So it's good
Exactly.
to see all of that. And of course, Frank Signetti, his Pittsburgh ties here. So I'm rooting for the hometown guy.
His dad's name is Frank. You meant Kurt Signetti, but
Kurt, yes, I'm sorry, Kurt. Yeah.
Frank is the legend, right? He's the high school legendary coach that Kurt learned all his stuff from. But
Yes,
yeah,
yep.
he's a Western PA guy, right?
Yes, yep.
And so that family, yeah. Oh, he Google me. Isn't that what he said? I win. Google me. I love that dude. That dude walks in with all that confidence. Hey, if you can talk the talk, you better walk the walk. And he walks the mess out of that walk for sure. So good to see you again, CB. This was a great Monday to wake up. Another Victory Monday. We will have our preview show later in the week, right? As we preview Houston. I'm so geek, man. We got this invite to the dance, brother. We are here. Anything can happen.
And this is what gets excited. It's one thing to talk about being in the playoffs. The last couple of years they were on the road, but when you're in the playoffs and the game is home, just the way the city transforms and
Mhm.
gets exciting the closer you get to game day. I love this time of year, and I can't wait for that playoff football now to be back at home at Acrisure Stadium. It's going to be exciting.
It's going to be awesome. Make sure you follow us on Snapcount, on Twitter or X, as well as subscribe to us on YouTube at Big Play Pittsburgh, as well as Instagram, also Big Play Pittsburgh. I will see you later this week as we preview this Houston game, CB. I'm looking forward to it, brother.
All right, look forward to it.
All right, here we go.